our flight just took us right north of Kansas City. That's where the airport is. And as soon as we got off the plane, the humidity just hit us. It hit us really, really powerfully. And I'm from the Rockies, from Utah, and I'm not used to humidity at all. So that was a really interesting experience. And then, the assistants to the president picked us up in a big mission van, and they drove us to the mission home, which was just south of Independence, Missouri, in a city called, Kansas City, just a suburb of it. And we got out of the van and got onto the grass, and we were all just kind of stretching on the grass in front of the mission president's home. And then one missionary is like, "Oh no, chiggers!" And everyone just started freaking out, and we jumped off the grass and got onto the sidewalk and the driveway, and we were just looking at our legs and feet just to make sure there was no chiggers. And what chiggers are is they're kind of really little tiny red bugs that are all over in the grass, mostly in the Midwest, and it's because of the humidity. And I don't even know really what they are, but they bite you, or they dig into your skin. They're kind of like what is it called? Ticks. They're kind of like ticks, but not as bad, I would say. But they kind of just bite you and leave lots of red marks down, on exposed skin or by your feet. And so we were all paranoid, "Oh no, watch out, the chiggers." And so that was my, one of those distinct memories of my first day out in Missouri. But other than that, it was just very surreal experience. Just everything happens not necessarily so quickly, but just since it's so new, just being a missionary, you have your name plaque, your name badge on, and you're just white shirt and tie, and you're out in this foreign area, even though it's stateside, it's still pretty foreign to me, different. And you just kind of feel cool, and you feel a little weird, and you don't really know what's going on, but it really is a neat experience. And especially meeting your mission president for that first time, just an amazing, loving, spiritual powerhouse of a guy. And he just gives you a hug and is like, "Elder, welcome to the mission field." And, it's just really fun, really neat experience. Serving in the Missouri Independence Mission was really neat, just because of all the church history that is there. And that really is just amazing in and of itself. The mission office is next to a stake center there in Independence. Then right next to that is a visitor center, the Independence Visitor Center. And that is really neat, just to have that there and just to go in, and it shows a lot of the church history that happened in that area in Jackson County. And something kind of interesting, across the street from the visitor center is the Community of Christ Temple, which was formerly known as the RLDS Church. They changed their name not too long ago. So that's really interesting, just to have right there, just in the center of our mission. And Independence and Jackson County and a lot of Missouri and Kansas is full of members of the Community of Christ Church. And, having them there is interesting. They're amazing people, and they definitely believe in the Book of Mormon and the Doctrine and Covenants and in the prophet Joseph Smith. But, there are little distinct differences other than that. After Joseph Smith, they feel that, the lineage of being a prophet and stuff goes a different path than Brigham Young and so forth, as we believe. But other than that, they're just amazing people, and they know the truth for the most part. So that's kind of fun, just to have them around and to be able to discuss the gospel with them. Another neat thing about our mission is that we have Liberty Jail up in North Kansas City, in the city of Liberty, Missouri. And as we all know, that's where Joseph Smith was incarcerated with some of his fellow brethren, and that's where we get a lot of revelations in the Doctrine and Covenants. And that just being in the Liberty Jail Visitor Center is just an amazing experience as well, just to learn what Joseph Smith went through, the suffering that he went through, and just how he overcame it. That also is just an amazing church history site And then one of my favorites is we also have Adam-ondi-Ahman, which is located in our mission. And just being there, standing amongst, the fields and the nature and just the green, lush trees in that area is just also an amazing experience, just to know what has happened there and what will happen there. It's just really, really fun, really neat to be a part of that and to know that I was called to serve in this area. And so that's really fun as well. I know some more fun facts about the mission. We have Kansas City, which is hopefully a well-known city. It's almost right in the middle of, America, USA. That's fun. Really known for its barbecue, really delicious barbecue. A lot of diversity in Kansas City from all types of ethnicities and cultures, all types of people. And something really cool that a lot of people don't know is that there's Kansas City, Missouri and Kansas City, Kansas. The state border goes right down the middle. And even though it's all just one Kansas City, there's one on each side of that state border. And the Kansas City, Kansas side is a little bit more ghetto than the Missouri side. But that makes things a little fun for the missionaries, But it's really great. I just love Kansas City, such a fun environment, fun place. Lots of people, lots of diversity, and lots of opportunities to share the gospel. There's, you can't go down the street without talking to someone because they're just all over the place. So that's also very fun. And then going out more into Kansas, going into Kansas, there's Topeka, which is the state capital. And then there's Wichita, which is known as the biggest city in Kansas. I don't know if it's the biggest geographically or population-wise. I think Kansas City might have the population higher, but I think geographically it's like the biggest. I hope I'm saying that right. That'd be embarrassing, but but Wichita also is just an awesome place. Wichita, Kansas. I spent a majority of my mission there, and I just love it. Love the people, love the area. It's just really, really fun. And so that's kind of some little fun facts about Kansas and Missouri. In the summer, and it's interesting. I think a lot of people feel bad for us. We're like knocking on their door and we're just drenched in sweat just because it's so hot. But there are a lot of kind people out there offering us water and lemonade or come on in. And even though a lot of people aren't interested in our message, a lot of people were very nice to us. They had compassion and they were worried about our health sometimes because it was so hot or so cold that what are you doing out in this weather? And so that's kind of fun. Also in the winter, it gets so cold, with the wind chill and the humidity. Even if it's 5 degrees outside, it feels like -20, depending on how cold it is and the wind. And so there's another time when I was in Junction City, Kansas, where we were just outside walking because our bikes weren't going to make it at all. And so we just bundle up as much as we can, and all you see is just a bunch of big black bundles and just 2 eyes. We're just trudging through the snow there through a blizzard. And what we didn't know is that there was a wind chill warning. People weren't supposed to be outside longer than 5 or 10 minutes because you could freeze to death and die. And we didn't know that because we don't have TV or radio or anything. So yeah, it's a blizzard, but we're missionaries. We have to go teach the good word. So off we go into this crazy blizzard, not a soul to be seen outside, and we're just knocking on doors, and people open up and they're like, "What are you doing? You're crazy. Why are you outside? Come on in." And we're like, "Oh, okay." So it helped that the weather was so bad because people invited us in, even though they thought we were crazy. But we did have success on those days just because of the weather. It's always on our side, which is kind of fun. And then along with that day, with how blizzardy it was, your eyebrows and your eyelashes just start to frost over. And with my eyes the only thing being exposed, I would blink, and as my eye tried to open back up, my eyelashes would start to freeze together, and icicle crystals would start to form because it was so cold outside. And then we'd go inside, and instantly we just start to defrost and start melting, and it's just really fun, really interesting experience how how much we go through, in weather conditions, and how we make it. It's just really fun, really interesting. Kansas City, it's known for being full of crime and crazy people, and a lot of crazy things occur there. Specifically in Kansas City, Missouri, there's two streets that are very well known for its crime and for being on Cops, the TV show Cops. I think that's what it's called, right? Maybe. Yeah, where they have where they chase down criminals and stuff in their cars and stuff. Anyways, and those two streets are Truce and Prospect. And whenever that intersection of Truce and Prospect, I think, is one of the scariest places in Kansas City. There's a lot of scary-looking women, a lot of scary-looking men there on the corners. And sometimes, when I was in that area in Kansas City, downtown Kansas City, we would pass by that area all the time, whether it was in our car or in our bikes. And sometimes, even though we're supposed to talk to everyone, we were kind of scared or, a little anxious to stop and talk to those people. Sometimes they would come up and talk to us, because we looked kind of well off in our white shirts and ties, and they'd want to come up and, ask questions and whatnot. So it's interesting how many, there are scary people out there, and we do have to be careful as missionaries. But a lot of times I feel that, in general, as human beings, we jump to conclusions and we judge people a lot based on how they look or what circumstances they're in. And as a missionary, I've learned that, we shouldn't judge people, even if they do look very scary, even if they have a lot of tattoos or crazy hair or piercings. There are a lot of people that look like that, and they are the nicest people ever. My experience as a missionary, talking to non-members on the streets, we had a lot more success, and there was a lot more kind, courteous, humble people that looked scary, that you would have never thought would accept our message, compared to an affluent white community that you would think would be more accepting and kind and courteous, but they're more rude and shut the door on us and get out of here, call us names, than minorities or people with tattoos or piercings. And so that's something that I think in general everyone needs to learn, is not to judge people based on how they look or their circumstances. There are a lot of gangs in Kansas City, and sometimes when we're knocking on doors or tracting or just talking to people on the streets, we see a gang or a couple of scary looking guys walking down the street, and we're like, oh no. And then they're like, hey, are you Jesus people? And we're like, yeah, we're missionaries. And they're like, man, we love you guys. If anyone messes with you, let us know, because we got your back. And it's like, oh, that's so cool. And yeah, just because we're Jesus people, they know what we're doing. They know the good word that we're spreading, and they believe in Christ, a lot of them, and they're willing to back us up. If anyone gives us trouble, let them know, and they'll take care of it. So I think that's really fun. Just getting to know all these different types of people, and just the circumstances that they're in. A lot of times it was their choice that led them into a certain circumstance, or sometimes it's just the area that they were raised in. But deep down, every single person is a child of God, and every single person has or should have that opportunity to hear the gospel for themselves and to learn about it, and to give them the opportunity to accept it or not. And as missionaries or as members of the church, we can't take that opportunity away from people just by judging them or stereotyping them. We just gotta be kind to everyone and give them that opportunity. And more than not, those individuals that we judge or are scary to us are very kind, have amazing hearts, and they're amazing people. So yeah, even though there is a lot of crime and a lot of scary situations out wherever you are in the mission, especially bigger cities, though we do need to exercise caution as missionaries, we also need to realize that the Lord is on our side, and we do need to give that opportunity to some people. But we also need to pay attention to the Spirit, because the Holy Ghost will tell us when we need to get out of an area or where we need to go or stay away from. So, yeah. Food in good old Midwest, Kansas and Missouri is different if you're not used to it. I served in a lot of English-speaking wards, even though I was Spanish-speaking missionary. And so in those wards, there's a lot of American families there just feeding us typical mashed potatoes, green beans, lots of meat with barbecue, which is really, really good, especially in the Midwest where barbecue is the best. Nowhere else can it be better. And so that was new to me because, my mom's from Colombia, and so I'm used to a lot of Hispanic food, specifically Colombian food. And so going to very Americanized white people, traditional American food was a little hard for me. But over time, I grew to love it. There's a really specific salad dressing that I learned to love. It's called Dorothy Lynch. And that salad dressing is really, really delicious. They use it a lot, especially in my first area in St. Joseph, Missouri. So I grew to love that. And then, as I mentioned, I did serve Spanish speaking. So when I was in Spanish branches or wards, I learned to eat a lot of different foods as well from other countries. So chile relleno, lots of rice and beans, Mexican hot dogs, which are, I think, more delicious than American ones. A lot of spicy foods, really delicious soup. There's menudo, which I personally I don't take a fancy to. And menudo is kind of like a soup that has chunks of pig in it, different parts of the pig, whether it's, the stomach or the intestine or whatnot. So, yeah, I don't really like that. And a lot of fatty parts of the meat. And I don't like fat. It's hard for me to swallow it, so I don't know how some people do it, but yeah, just, I don't know, there's a lot of times I had experiences trying to not being able to eat a lot of food. I actually have Crohn's disease, so my diet is kind of very restricted, and half of my mission I didn't know how severe my disease was. So I was eating just, anything, because as a missionary, to be polite to whoever's serving you food, you eat everything you're given. It shows, courtesy, and it shows how polite you are as a missionary. And so I used to eat a lot of stuff, but like sooner as I went through my mission, I found out that I couldn't eat a lot of foods. And I think it would have been easier just to tell the member, the investigator, whoever was feeding us, that I have a disease and I can't eat this food. But I didn't, and so it kind of caused a lot of fun experiences between me and my companions. And when the server or the individual who was feeding us, left the room, I was like, "Elder, quick, eat this!" And I'd have him, stuff his face and finish off my plate. And then one time, my companion, he was a newer missionary, and he was like, "Okay, I'll do it for you." And so he quickly eats my plate, and he finishes his, and then the sister comes back in and she's like, "Oh, elders, you loved your food. I'll bring you more." And we were like, "No, no, no, no." And then she brings us full plates of just more food. And we were like, "Oh no, what are we going to do?" And that's just really funny. Lots of experiences where you are full, you can't eat more, but you kind of have to because they expect you to eat. You don't want to offend them. And so you do. And then you just leave just very full not just of the Spirit, but of lots of food as well. And so one time I had a Thanksgiving where we were in a Spanish area, and just from house to house, there was just lots and lots of food. And so we just ate and ate and ate all day. And it's fun. Sometimes I've never been more full and kind of disgusted of food in my life, but at the same time, I love the food there. So it's just a really fun experience. Don't eat too much, but be honest to those people that are feeding you. If you can't eat more, just let them know, and hopefully they'll not take offense. So, but yeah, you'll be able to know what to do. One of my favorite mission stories is from this investigator called Kwame Shepherd. And he was a really interesting, really fun guy. We found him in Newton, Kansas. It's a little town about half an hour north of Wichita, Kansas. And we were just walking around, tracting, knocking on some doors. And we came across him. And he knew who we were. He was like, "Oh, Mormon missionaries." And we're like, yeah, we're Elder so-and-so and Elder so-and-so. What's your name? And we got to know him, and he was very cold towards us at first. He was smoking something at the time, and so I don't know how, if he was all there at the time. But we got his information. We were able to get back in contact with him. And we entered into his home. He was a very, very big African-American man, but he was awesome, very kind to us. He was interested in learning more, especially, he knew some things that weren't all true. So we were able to tell him the truth and kind of inform him a little bit more about what exactly we do as missionaries. And as we were sitting there in his living room, we were just kind of talking about the Book of Mormon and what it is and how he can come to know that it's true. And what happened in this situation happened, unfortunately, a lot. As missionaries, we're not supposed to watch TV or anything. And his TV was on. And, as a missionary, it's always, good to, "Hey, could you turn off the TV while we're here?" Just politely. Most people don't think anything of it. They're like, "Oh, sure, turn off the TV," and then you share a message. But for some reason, it's always really awkward to ask them, "Hey, can you turn off the TV?" or for whatever reason. And so we're trying to teach, and his TV's on in the corner, and you can just see our eyes kind of like just shifting back. Like whenever there's a TV on, like your eyes always wander for some reason, probably because you haven't seen a TV in however many months or what. And so we're trying to teach Kwame, and our eyes just keep shifting back, and he notices, and he was like, "Hey, are you guys distracted? Do you want me to turn off the TV?" And we're like, "Oh yes, could you?" And he's like, "Sure thing." He turns it off. He's like, "You know what? That's Satan right there. That's Satan. Satan. Science and technology and nonsense. Satan." And we were like, "What the? Like, this guy's crazy." But it's so funny, and it's true. And then he just starts going off about how, Satan's all over the world with technology and TVs. And he was like, "iPads, iPods, you don't see no Wii pods, you don't see no Wii phones." He's like, I. Satan's all about I. And we were like, "Oh man." And it was just really funny. Like, this guy was crazy. And every time we visited him, he just like came up with some new acronym or some new thing. And it was just really, really funny. So remember that: science and technology and nonsense, Satan. And so that's really funny. Another fun experience with him is when we taught about the Book of Mormon, and we told him, if you read and pray about this, you can know for yourself that it is true. God will answer your prayer, and by the Spirit you'll know that this book is the Word of God and that it's true. And he was flipping through it, and he was like, "That's what's up." And I was like, "Man, that's the coolest answer to, if you read and pray about the Book of Mormon, you'll know it's true. That's what's up." And that's so fun. And as he was flipping through the Book of Mormon, he came to the Book of Jerem. But when he got to it, he's like, "No way. No way. You got the Book of Jerome in here? You got the Book of Jerome? It's about time a brother gets some representation up in the Word of God." And it was just so awesome. It was so funny. And we just loved him. And even though he didn't progress a lot or as quick as we'd want, it was just fun to get to know him. It was fun to, teach him these things. And eventually he did come to church one day, which was awesome. He stuck out a lot when he entered that sacrament meeting room, but he was welcome to the ward. People came up to him and shook his hand, and even though he was kind of a scary looking guy, I'm glad that the ward members went up and fellowshipped him, talked to him, made him feel welcome. And I was transferred soon after that, so I don't really know what came of Kwame Shepherd, but I'm just glad I had that experience to get to know him and to gain some laughs and some good journal entries from him. As a missionary, all we do all day is just teach and find and invite and prepare to teach and teach. Everything is centered around the gospel and sharing the message that is so wonderful. A lot of times, throughout the day, depending on the season, there's a lot of times when you're just traveling a lot, whether you're on bike or in a car or on foot. You're just traveling from destination to destination, trying to teach people, and on the way, talking to people, and inviting them as well to come unto Christ. And along those journeys of traveling, you come across some fun experiences. There was one time, a very, very hot and humid day in the summer in the middle of Kansas, where my companion and I were just riding our bikes. And it was so hot out there that, especially if you're outside all day, you're just, drenched in sweat. And I was just riding my bike, and it was as if someone had a hose over my head, just dripping, just cascading down all this sweat. And I couldn't see because it started going into my eyes. And I was like, and it started stinging me. So I was like trying to wipe the sweat out of my eyes. And I'm trying to ride my bike, and as I'm trying to wipe, and all of a sudden, smack! I ran into the back of a police car. And I just like completely just ran into it. And my companion was behind me, and he was like, "Oh my goodness!" and I don't know. I guess I hit it, and I toppled over onto the trunk, and then fell back, and my bike flew all over. And luckily, the worst that happened is that my bottom lip kind of got a little fat, and I think I cut my finger a little bit, but that was it. But my pass-on cards in my pocket just flew out everywhere, and so we quickly tried to pick it up, and we're looked around, and we're like, let's get out of here, because luckily the cop wasn't in his car, and so we didn't know where he was. But I don't know why we were so scared, let's hurry, let's get out of here before someone sees. But that was a really funny experience. So Crohn's disease is inner bowel disease, where the large intestine inflames and kind of rubs against each other and causes internal bleeding. And then it also causes, pain in the abdomen, lots of cramping and stuff. And because you're losing so much blood, you lose a lot of weight, and you have the potential of becoming anemic, which is not a good thing. And so with having Crohn's disease, I had a very strict diet on the mission that I didn't know I was supposed to have. The first year of my mission, I was fine. I didn't have very many symptoms. But my second year is when things started getting a little more severe. I had to run to the bathroom a lot, which caused a lot of, funny, interesting experiences for me and my companions. But yeah, just because of all the internal bleeding, I just had to go to the bathroom, and, just a lot of blood was lost. And the first year of my mission, I gained a lot of weight. And the second year is when I started losing it all, just because I was so sick. And with Crohn's disease as a missionary, I know there's other missionaries that have medical problems on the mission, and sometimes it's so severe that they have to be sent home, which is unfortunate. Fortunately for me, it never came to that. I almost was sent home. My last transfer, I got so sick that I had 3 weeks before I left or returned home, and my mission president's like, I think you should go home now. You're really ill. You need to get some medical attention. And I was like, no, I have 3 weeks left. I'm not going back now. I'm gonna finish strong. And so I was very stubborn, and I stuck it through. But I returned home very, very, very ill, and I was hospitalized, and I looked awful, very, very skinny, very, I looked terrible. But I'm glad that I stayed stuck through it. And even though I was so very sick, I kept working very hard every day. I was more tired than usual. I was very fatigued, especially in full bike areas. It's hard, especially in the summer or even in the winter, just because of how hot or how cold it is, and with the humidity. It took a toll on my body. And I think looking back, I probably should have been more aware of that. I should have taken care of my body a little bit more. But I was very stubborn or too determined to do the Lord's work, to worry about myself. I was like, other people need, this message more than me being, taking rest or getting better. So, but yeah, along with that, the Crohn's disease and having to run to the bathroom all the time, whether we were on bikes or in cars, me and my companion, I would just be like, Elder, I gotta go to the restroom. So we'd pull over, we'd find the nearest restroom, and I'd be in there for a while, unfortunately. And so I felt bad that my companion was always waiting for me, just waiting for me to be done. But it helped provide a lot of missionary opportunities. As I was in the restroom, my companions were able to talk to people, get some contacts in and stuff. So that was good. And then we also just have a lot of funny experiences where we're teaching someone or we're at a member's house and all of a sudden I just get hit and I'm like, uh-oh, I gotta go to the bathroom. And, sometimes I have to hold it, or sometimes, I'm like, I can't. And so I was like, I have to get out of here. I have to run to the restroom. And those experiences are funny as well, especially if I'm in the passenger seat of the car and I'm just like, I'm not gonna make it, Elder, I'm not gonna make it. But it provided a lot of good journal entries, a lot of fun experiences. So yeah, something that a lot of missionaries are not aware of before they enter the mission field is, I guess, leadership roles within the mission. There's our mission president and assistants to the president, zone leaders, district leaders, and then in some missions, senior and junior companions. And once you go out there, some missionaries are, they are opposed to all the leadership, or some really like it, whatnot. But it's there for a reason. In the church we have leadership, we have levels of leadership, and it's designed for a purpose. And having the opportunity to serve in some leadership positions is sometimes fun and sometimes not, depending on how the missionaries you serve, react to you and to whatever assignment you're given. And just something to know when if you ever are assigned to, be in a certain leadership position in the mission, it doesn't necessarily make you any better than anyone. If anything, you're just there to serve others, to help others, no matter what other missionaries in your district or zone, you're equal and you're there to help each other. And that's something that I was blessed to learn from, is to learn that we can learn a lot from other missionaries and we're there to help each other out. I had the opportunity to be in a zone full of sisters, and me and my companion were 2 of 4 missionaries or elders in that area, and then the rest was just surrounded by sisters. And it was just such an amazing experience to know how amazing sister missionaries really are. There's a lot of people who make fun of them or have stereotypes about sister missionaries, and I think that's probably changed a lot, especially with the age change. But back when I served, which wasn't too long ago, but back in the day, these sisters were amazing, and I know they still are. And you learn a lot from them. And there's elders all over that you can learn a lot from as well. And just being able to have district meetings and zone conferences, and sometimes preparation days where you get together as missionaries and catch up and get to know each other. It's really fun to kind of form those camaraderies, form those friendships, and to grow together and know that you're not alone as a missionary. There's others that are right there with you. And I feel that if your mission allows you to see each other as often as you do once or twice a week, either for P days or meetings, use that time to learn from each other, to grow, and to learn ways of how to better teach other people and find people. So I think that's something interesting or good to know. Serving stateside, specifically Spanish speaking, you would think that you could have more success, I guess, than other missionaries or other missions. we're all aware that, South America and Central America, they baptize a lot. And so being Spanish speaking, I was like, oh man, I'm going to have a lot of success, even though it's here in Kansas and Missouri. And even though, previous missionaries in the same area had a lot of success, or other companionships in different branches were having success, for some reason, I had the great trial and learning experience of not seeing a lot of success on my mission. I did baptize, but not a lot, and not as much as a lot of other missionaries that I knew in my mission. And sometimes that really is hard for a missionary to see, someone else, in a different ward that's right next to yours, or a different area, or, a fellow companion who's just had a lot of success. And then you look at yourself and you're like, well, how come me? Like, I'm doing everything right. I'm being obedient. I'm working hard. How come I can't see success? How come I can't see more baptisms? And there's a specific area that I was in, Spanish branch in Wichita, in the Derby stake, that I learned a lot from. That branch was very known for just having a lot of success, for being a very fruitful area. And as soon as I got there, for some reason, that all stopped, just gone. And I was like, oh no! And I was really excited because I love working with Hispanic people. They're just so warm and open, and they have such a desire to change and to come unto God. But for some, it's harder. They're sometimes they don't keep commitments very well. And I think that goes for all types of people. But it was just, for some reason, it was just really hard. We would find amazing families. We would find amazing people. We'd start teaching them. And the next thing you know, they're gone. They don't live where they used to. And we're like, where did they go? Like, they've been here for forever. Now they're gone. Sometimes they return back to their native country, or they just move for whatever reason. And it was just really hard finding all these people. They start progressing. Some of them start coming to church, and then they just fall off the map, or just something else happens. And it just was really, really hard. I was there for, I think, a little over 9 months, and just month after month, like, we would start teaching more. We would start seeing more people progressing, but then nothing ever came of it. And it was just very, very hard. And it was hard to not blame myself for it, because it wasn't me at all. I was doing everything I was supposed to. And that's something that as a missionary you need to realize is success isn't measured by number of baptisms or number of people that come to church. That is your goal, and you should be working towards that. But that success is measured of how much you've changed, how dedicated you've become, and what you're learning along the process. During that time, I realized that I could stay faithful, I could stay committed, I can continue doing all that I can, even when I'm not seeing any fruits of my labor, even if I'm not seeing success. And that has helped me in the future to know that, even if life is just throwing just lots of stuff down on me and I'm not seeing any success, I know that I can continue forward, remain faithful, and eventually the Lord will bless me in some way. Sometimes we don't know what God has in store for us, but there is a learning experience in everything, even if it's, going through a stage of not having any success in life or in your mission life. Something that was a really great blessing once I was transferred from that area in Wichita where I had no success at all. No immediate success, no baptisms. My companion, that transfer right after, my companion told me about several families that we had found that committed to be baptized. And, even though I wasn't there, even though I wasn't going to be one of the missionaries that was going to be in the picture or going to watch or witness this baptism of this family that me and my companion found, I was happy, because I knew that even though I didn't baptize in that area, my efforts did pay off. My hard work did pay off. And if I chose to, give up or just be lazy, or like, this area's dead, if I chose to have that attitude, then these people may have not been found. but because I stayed committed, because I continued working hard, we were able to find some people that were in need of the gospel, and eventually they were baptized. And that's something that you can't sacrifice. You just always have to work, because you never know who will be placed in your path and who will eventually accept the gospel. My favorite scripture is located in Alma chapter 29, verses 13 and 14. And it reads, God did establish his church among them. Yea, and that same God hath called me by a holy calling to preach the word unto this people, and hath given me much success, in the which my joy is full. But I do not joy in my own success alone, but my joy is more full because of the success of my brethren. And that scripture I discovered while I was serving a mission, and it really, 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 really touched me, because it helped me realize that though when I am given success, when I do see success in my life, and when helping people come into Christ, it's an amazing experience. You're just full of joy, you're just full of happiness, and it's an amazing feeling and experience. But I've realized that as I've seen the people I love, as I've seen, fellow missionaries or fellow brethren have success as well, then my joy is even more full. I'm even more happy to see other people be successful as well. And I think this is also applicable just post-mission, and just, in regular day life, seeing, children or siblings or someone have success. It makes you happy. And, I don't have any children as of yet, but I can just see how much joy my parents see when they see me or one of my siblings accomplish something or have success. I can tell that they are happy. And this scripture illustrates that, how much happiness and how much joy you will feel when you see the ones you love have success in life and find happiness. And I'm just so grateful to know that the gospel of Jesus Christ is true, that the Book of Mormon is the Word of God, and that as we do all that we can to draw into Christ by keeping the commandments, by improving ourselves on a daily basis, that joy and that happiness will surpass, everything. We'll be so happy. And it's because of the gospel of Jesus Christ that we have the opportunity to feel such eternal happiness in this life. And I just testify to you that these things are true, and invite you to go forth and do all that you can to bring that happiness to others and also to yourself. One of the really neat experiences that I had, which I don't think happens too often, is the very first family that I was able to see enter into the waters of baptism in my first area. A year later, they got sealed in the temple. And that was just an amazing experience, just to see, from the very beginning as investigators, investigating the church, and then they committed to baptism, they received the Holy Ghost, they got callings, and I was transferred, and I was placed into many different areas within that next year, but I stayed in contact with them through letters, and they informed me that they were going to the temple to be sealed. And I was just so excited. That's I think almost every missionary's dream, is to see their converts progress so much and so well that they enter the temple of the Lord. And it was just a miracle that I was able to go. I was in Wichita at the time when they were going to be sealed, and they were going to be sealed up in winter quarters in Nebraska. And that temple is way outside of our mission boundaries, but we were able to receive permission to go. And me and my companion went up, and we met my original companion, who was the one that we baptized the family with. I hope that made sense. But so we were there, and we just witnessed this couple get sealed. And something I didn't know at the time is that they wanted us to be their witnesses, which is a really amazing experience as well. So me and my companion were there as the witnesses. We saw them get sealed. And the one part that just changed my life forever was after the couple was sealed, the door opened and their 3-year-old boy came running in dressed in white to be sealed to his parents. And just seeing that just caused just tears to flow from my face. The Spirit was just so powerful in that room. And it testified to me that this is why missionaries do what they do. This is why this work is so important. It's to give these people, to give the children of God the opportunity to be sealed together for time and eternity with their families. That's why we do missionary work. It's to help everyone have a forever family. And that, knowing the true purpose of why we're out there working so hard, teaching these people, inviting them to change their lives, is so that they can truly have, that a celestial marriage. They can truly have a family that they can be with for eternity. And that was just one of the greatest, most beautiful experiences that I could have ever hoped for. And I'm glad that I had that with the Boston family. Awesome. So you just got your call to the Missouri Independence Mission. And as a former missionary who served in this most marvelous of missions, I just want to congratulate you. And just, that's so awesome. I hope you're excited. Even though it is stateside, it is an amazing place. It is very foreign, very exotic area. And so even though you're still in the States, it'll be still very foreign for you. And, you'll still have the good old luxuries of being in the States. You still got Walmart around and Target and all those good fast food restaurants, and so you won't be suffering too much. But if I just want to let you know that you have been called to Independence, Missouri, and that in and of itself is an amazing opportunity. The Lord knows who you are, and the Lord knows that you have certain talents and skills that will bless and touch the lives of certain people in that area. You may not have a lot of success, you may have a lot of success on your mission, but as you prepare and as you stay faithful and as you are exactly obedient to the commandments and to the mission rules, the Lord will bless you, and the Lord will place individuals in your life that only you can touch. And I can testify of that, whether it's just a person that you talk to, whether it's a person you teach, no matter how much contact you have with an individual, just realize that you may be the only person that can pierce their heart, that can change their soul and change their mind to consider the truth about the gospel of Jesus Christ. And you may never ever know that you had that influence until probably after this life. And so in your preparation to serve in the Missouri Independence Mission, just read the scriptures, pray, prepare yourself as much as you can spiritually, but also be ready to have a lot of fun. Serving a mission is an amazing experience. It's so much fun. Find the joy, find the laughter that comes from your day-to-day life. Sometimes it's going to be hard. It's going to be really hard, really rough, going and trying to teach people and just not seeing success or people just being mean to you. But as you're faithful and as you keep going, keep having a positive attitude and a smile on your face, you will find the joy that comes from missionary work, and you will just be an amazing missionary. So go forth, go baptize the nations, go teach and preach, and you're just going to love it. And good luck out there.
So assuming that the protocol is still the same for those who are going to go into the mission as it was for me, you fly from Salt Lake to the Kansas City International Airport. My mission president and his wife were at the airport along with the APs, the assistants, and you get off off the gate. They're normally right there to your right. The nice thing about the Kansas City airport compared to other airports is that the terminal and the gates are almost right there, so you don't really get lost in a terminal. You'll just come right off the gate and you'll be able to see them right away, which is really nice. We got picked up, got sent over to the mission home, which is really nice. It's a really big house. Had a great dinner. We got briefed on a few things, spent the night there, and then in the morning you'll go to the Independence Stake Center. And when you arrive there, if your trainer is serving in the Missouri area, he'll be there to pick you up. If he's coming back from Kansas, you'll have to wait for him to get back, or her to get back. And the nice thing about the stake center there is that it's right across the street from the Community of Christ Temple. So a lot of the times missionaries would take tours over in that temple. It's an RLDS temple and it's open to anybody. Anybody can go in there and there's tours and you can sing and you can look at the RLDS history, which is kind of interesting, and wait for your companion to show up. Missouri's chock full of history, especially my mission, Independence, Missouri, the gathering place, the New Zion, things like that. That's going to be big with a lot of members, especially in the Independence area. A lot of them have, at least in the back of their minds, the knowledge that, this is going to be, the gathering for the millennium and things like that. So that's kind of inside the church, and that's something that you can research yourself. Hospitality is still a big thing out there. So even if there's people that don't agree with you or that are investigating or that aren't members or even of part of a denomination that doesn't agree with what we preach, they're always willing to be hospitable. I remember on more than one occasion tracting and having people pull over and offering us water bottles. Not even members of our faith, we have no idea who they are, but they wanted to be friendly, kind of the old style American, friendliness that you don't really see nowadays. It's still big out there. So politeness is big. Always be polite with other people because they're going to be polite with you. There's Kansas City, and that's both Kansas City, Kansas, and Kansas City, Missouri. It's a unique city. I'll talk about that later. Some other big ones is Wichita. That's the state capital of Kansas. Then you have, Topeka is the state capital of Kansas. Topeka is the state capital of Kansas. Wichita's another major city. And then you have the two college towns in Kansas, and that's Lawrence and Manhattan. Kansas City is unique. It's really big. You'll probably serve in one of the suburbs of it. It has a whole bunch of suburbs. It's right in the border between Kansas and Missouri. So there's a Kansas City, Kansas, and a Kansas City, Missouri. Like I said, Topeka is the capital. It's rather big. It's about 200,000 people. Wichita is a little bit bigger, and they have that split in half for the stakes. So there's the eastern half is the Wichita stake, and the western half is the Derby stake. Flat, really nice people. I served 7.5 months in Wichita, and I absolutely love the people there. They're really good about missionary work. And then Manhattan, Kansas has Kansas State University, so there's a rather large singles ward there, university ward. And then Lawrence, Kansas has the University of Kansas, and that's kind of the same deal. There's two missions in Missouri. There's the Missouri St. Louis, which is just to the east of us, and then my mission, the Missouri Independence Mission. And we covered, I would say, the western half of Missouri, like the northwestern half of Missouri. We didn't go all the way down to the southern border. And then we covered about 2/3 of Kansas. So if you serve out there, you're probably going to end up serving more in Kansas than in Missouri, although that's not true for all missionaries. And that was primarily our border. We also had a little bit of Nebraska, but no one really ever went there. So I was serving in Topeka, Kansas for 6 months, and I was with my first companion. We were together for 2 transfers, so about 3 months. And Kansas and Missouri is Tornado Alley. When you get into the mission, actually, Sister Hacking, she pulled out a picture of a tornado, and I kid you not, had us pass around this picture and then told us never to pray for tornadoes and never to go seeking out tornadoes. There's a lot of tornadoes in the summer, and you got to be careful. Severe weather is really bad. So in the summer, it's really hot and humid. You're going to get your suit soaked if you're biking around, or your dress. I mean, you can't avoid it. But there was one time with my companion where we were sitting in our apartment having dinner. A member had dropped off dinner. They couldn't have us over. And The tornado alarms had been going off months previous and nothing had ever happened. We'd go scurry off and find shelter only to come back 10 minutes later. Well, the alarm went off 3 times and we didn't do anything about it. And so we finish up our dinner. We're going to go head back outside and contact some people. We get in our car. Gratefully, we had a car. So as we're getting into our car, our ward mission leader calls us and he says, "Elders, where are you right now?" And we say, "Oh, well, you know, brother so-and-so, we're just going to go out and contact some people before the night's over." And I was in the passenger seat, so I was talking to him while my companion was driving. And I kid you not, he screamed in my ear, "Are you elders stupid? There's tornadoes outside of Topeka. Find shelter now." So naturally, I look over to my companion and told him that I have to get my camera in case there's any tornadoes. So we drove back to our apartment, got my camera, and I actually have a video of the alarms going off as we're running down our apartment stairs because we lived on the 3rd floor. And we hopped in the car and we got to safety. We went to the Topeka Library basement, so we got to proselyte with people there for 30 minutes, and there was nothing they could do about it because we were all stuck in the basement. But long story short, the weather can be dangerous. Oftentimes, it's not surprising to have golf ball, softball sized hail, severe winds, tornadoes in the area. I remember I served in Manhattan, Kansas. I served in the 1st ward, and the branch president of the singles ward had us over, and half of his house was gone a couple months earlier. It was the Greensburg tornado. It was a giant F5 that came through, destroyed Greensburg. It lifted up, it hit Manhattan, it hit the Kansas State campus. And so it's really dangerous. You got to be careful. Take those tornado sirens seriously. Kansas City is really a fun place to go if you go to the right places. You can have a lot of fun in Kansas City. If you're a big Jayhawks or a Wildcats fan, I'd recommend Lawrence or Manhattan. Go out there, catch some basketball games, whatever. But other than that, I mean, most people think Kansas and Missouri is boring. And granted, it's not the most exciting place, but if you know where to go, you can be a lot of fun. So I can't think of any like cool public places to go to other than the usual. They have a nice zoo out there, I guess. I don't know. I heard nice things, so, in Kansas City. Ballparks, stadiums. That's about it. For missionaries, I will say this. Missouri does not believe in sidewalks. So when you're biking, be careful. And it sounds kind of silly, but get some reflective gear. At least get lights on your bike. I know that in the cities, you have to have lights on both your front and your back and something reflective so that people can see you. That's actually required by law in most of the cities in Kansas and Missouri. But especially in Missouri, there aren't very many sidewalks. So when you bike, be careful. I don't know why there's not very many sidewalks. I don't get that. Kansas does a better job about that. So that's a safety tip for missionaries, because there's only a few areas that are full-time car, and those are normally the bigger areas, or you're an assistant to the president. Otherwise, you're going to be biking at least half of the time, half of the month. In the spring and summer, our mission presidents told us to keep our eyes on the light poles, because modesty is not always enforced, obviously, with college students. So you got to be careful, because there's red light districts in both cities, and if you're out after dark, you're not going to come across anything good. It's always sunny, muggy, like I said, and then in the winter it gets really cold, and when it gets cold, it gets really, really cold. And I remember I was serving in Lee Summit, Missouri, and the ward got really mad at us because we biked to church. Church was maybe a mile or two away, and we didn't realize it, but it was negative 20 outside. So just be careful. Freezing rain's really big, and most people, it looks like actual raindrops, but when the rain hits the ground, it automatically freezes. And there's a lot of accidents that can happen if you're not careful, because it's really slick and the cars and bikes can't get any traction. It's more traditional. We have a rather large, well, what I would consider large, Spanish-speaking section of our mission. There's a lot of Spanish elders and sisters. A lot more than I thought would be in Kansas and Missouri. If you're out in the smaller towns and the smaller areas and some of the smaller cities, predominantly Caucasian. Really nothing specific to the wildlife outside of what you'd probably find, unless you're from another country outside of the United States. Nothing you really need to worry about. we would bike day and night and never came across anything dangerous. There's no cougars or mountain lions that I know of or anything big. Mostly just smaller animals, deer. That's about it. Places to see, tons of places to see. Oh my gosh. So you have Independence itself, great city. I think the Community of Christ Church was a fun place to go visit. I have nothing against the RLDS Church. I think they're great people. I mean, they have a lot of truths. They're good and devout people. They're doing their best. And, you know, you might be kind of weirded out by the movie because they do show a woman baptizing. And, you know, if that's something you're not interested in, I can understand. But otherwise, you know, they're great people. And I thought it was a cool place to visit. You also have the temple grounds for the Millennium Temple that's supposed to be built out there. That place was fun. Adamondiamon's a cool place to go, actually. On my mission, when we do a tour, a church tour, we go to the temple lot, and we also go to Adamondiamon, and it was really cool to just kind of go out there and see it. It's rolling hills, and the church owns like all that property out there, so that was really fun. So you have Liberty, Missouri as well too. That's where the Liberty Jail is, and that's our second visitor center. The first one's in Independence, and then Liberty Jail, which is about 45 minutes away from Independence. That's where our other visitor center is. Also a really cool place to go if you want to learn more about, you know, when Joseph Smith and Oliver Cowdery and all of them were imprisoned in Liberty Jail. Really spiritual experience. If you have any non-member friends or family, I'd recommend both the Independence Visitor Center and the Liberty Jail Visitor Center. The sisters there are well trained. It's ran by sisters for the most part, and they know what they're doing. We had excellent sisters who we would always try and take investigators to. Outside of the LDS Church, I mean, a lot of Catholics, especially in the small towns. In the small towns, there'll either be one large Catholic church or one large Baptist church in the area, and that's going to be the church that most people go to. And then, of course, you have some of the evangelical and Protestant churches in the area as well. Church of Christ, Church of God, and then just some of the other Episcopalian churches out there as well. A lot of them are very devout to their faith, so don't be offended if they kind of confront you. That's just how they are. People are very passionate and very much about their history and their family's history. So a lot of the work that we did, and this is something that my second mission president really emphasized a lot, President Van Komen, was to work on part-member families and less actives, because all of my baptisms in my mission came from part-member families and less active work. Light clothing. It's hot and humid there. Umbrellas don't work. Don't bring an umbrella. Mine broke after a day of use. It's horrible. The weather out there is really bad. But light clothing, travel tips. Know the area really well. You can get lost pretty quickly. I mean, there's not a whole lot of landmarks or scenery out there. So if you're out in the middle of nowhere trying to find a place, you could get lost really easily if you don't know where you're going. So plan things out beforehand. GPS, TomTom, whatever. Get something that'll help you. In terms of the weather, just keep your eye out. Storms come in fast because there's not a lot blocking them. If you're feeling really erratic gusts of wind and you see clouds in the horizon, be careful. I know that personally missionaries can't check the weather every day, but there's a member out there you can call, get weather updates, find out what's going to happen. Don't let anything sneak up on you. So just be smart about it, especially during the summer. Tornadoes can get really bad, and in fact, on my mission, Independence, Missouri, was hit by a tornado in January. So they can come at any time. Doesn't matter really what time of the year it was. That was really rare, but it happens. I once had possum, but that's weird and very untraditional. It's not traditional at all. I was tricked into it. So nothing different. Like I said, if you're from the States and you're serving in Missouri, you're not going to come across anything unique or different. It's American food. I will say, though, their barbecue is excellent. You can't beat Kansas City barbecue. Make sure you get some barbecue if you serve in the mission. It's fantastic. If you're in the cities and you're not living with a member, be careful after dark. There are some people out there who are not as fond of missionaries or other people in general and are looking to do harm. Crime rates are kind of high. So there's a reason why the 9 o'clock curfew is set in place. Make sure you keep to that. In my mission, I was never personally threatened, but there was a missionary who was stabbed because he was in the wrong place at the wrong time with a group of people. So just be careful. It's a great place to serve. Like I said, fantastic people, but just like anywhere else, you kind of have to use a degree of caution. Other safety tips: be careful when you're on bikes. Like I said, biking is going to be something you do a lot of, and just be careful about where you're biking. And that's really about it. It's a really safe mission. I mean, you just got to watch out for a couple things here and there, especially with the weather. And one of the cool things about my mission was there were 3 test missions for the Truth Restored campaign. My mission was one of those missions. So before anybody else, we had Mormon.org. We had the black and white pass along cards with the families and the questions on them and everything like that. We were one of the first missions to do that. So we would have billboards and TV commercials and a whole lot of cool things. So that was really fun to be a part of and to test that out. That's why the church decided to make it nationwide and worldwide and things like that. So recognize that there is a lot of work going on out there, and that the church leaders are very, very committed to the area. In fact, numbers aren't important. It's about who you baptize rather than how many you baptize. I feel that's important to me, but I do know that our mission had the highest success rate for the region or for the area, and so it's a great place to go. Members are really excited about missionary work. Wards are getting broken up into different wards. In fact, in one of my areas, my companion and I was training, and we got double transferred into a brand new ward that had just been created out of other wards because it was growing so much. So a lot of work's going on there. A lot of people are excited. So just utilize the members, utilize the Truth Restored campaign, utilize Mormon.org, and just talk to everybody you see. So I had 2 mission presidents on my mission. I had President James L. Hacking, who's now in the MTC presidency here in Provo. He was my mission president for 6 months. And I appreciated him because he was dedicated, and he was also a businessman, so he ran the mission like a business. So I wouldn't say it was no nonsense. He knew how to have fun and knew how to get missionaries excited, but he was definitely well organized, and I think he brought that organization to the missionaries, and we were really able to get organized and be prepared. And then my second mission president was President Van Komen, George Van Komen, and he was great because he kept, all mission presidents are spiritual, but he was the opposite in the fact that he ran the mission like a family. So all the elders and sisters were his sons and daughters, and that's how he treated us, just hugs all the time, and just really laid back and easygoing and soft-spoken. And he kept the same structure as President Hacking, but he supported us more as a father than as a supervisor. And so I appreciated that as well. He made it a little more personal. Referrals, part member families, and less actives really was where I found my success. Tracting is still effective. It still needs to be done to show the Lord humility and faith. So never abandon tracting completely. If you find yourself, you try to go see a contact and they weren't there, go tract a street. Or an appointment ends early, before you get in your car, go knock on a couple houses, next door. You never know who you're going to meet. We had examples like that on my mission where, a missionary just felt like when they were going to an appointment that they had to take a right on a certain street and knock on that house, and that family ended up getting baptized. Always follow the Spirit with that. I would say that's probably a big tip. And then, utilize part member families and less actives and referrals a lot. That's where I found a lot of success. Big thing for me was getting to learn to love my companions. There are some companions that we clicked instantly, and then there's some companions that kind of took a little while. And that's natural. Go in with the expectation that you're going to love and get along with your companion no matter what. But realize if you don't mesh completely, that's okay, that people are different. And that's where you have to come in and you have to recognize that you need to change yourself. I was still a little stubborn on my mission and thought that I could change my companion before I changed myself. But I learned over time that as I changed myself, my companion started changing himself, and we both got along better because of it. But I love each and every one of my companions. Serving with another person's great. It might be a little weird being with someone 24/7 at first. That was kind of weird for me. You get used to it after a while, and then after a while it becomes fun. You make some really good friends. But my advice would be to go in with the expectation that you're going to love your companion and work really hard at it. That's really good training for when you get married. But service is a big thing. I found that with the companions that I sometimes struggled with, shining their shoes, cooking them breakfast, making their bed, offering to do the dishes, the small things like that goes a long way, and it makes you feel better in the process. So that's what I would recommend. Also, communication's a big thing. In your companionship inventories, don't skip it. I used to do it all the time, but don't skip all the steps in there. And I don't know if they modified it or not, but be sure to talk with your companion. Be sure to praise your companion, and look to be uplifting. And if there is anything that you feel they need to change, always be willing to help them change by adding on more responsibility to yourself. And you'll make some best friends. I still keep in contact with a lot of the missionaries I served with and served around. There's some good buddies out there. So, in my first area, there was a family. I'm not going to mention any names, but the sister in this family had been a member all her life and had married a non-member. And she said for the longest time that he wasn't interested in the church. Well, my second companion, my follow-up trainer, gets transferred into the area. He becomes the district leader and is, all gung-ho and everything. So he decides that we're going to go over and watch the restoration with him and then challenge this man to see if he wants to take the lessons. So we go over there not knowing what to expect. We show him the restoration DVD, and we ask him at the end of the DVD if he would be interested in learning more about the church. And surprisingly, she couldn't believe it. He said yes. He said that he saw where her life was going and how happy she was, and he saw where his life was going and how he knew he was missing something, and he wanted to be taught the lessons. So he was taught the lessons, and he was hung up on a few things. I mean, nothing big. All investigators are going to be hung up on a few things on occasion. There might be one or two things that might be hard for them to accept. But he was eventually baptized, and that family ended up going to the temple. So that was really cool. So the moral of that story is, don't be afraid to ask people if they want to know more. Challenge people to learn about the church. And then the last story that I have is about this 9-year-old boy. His father was loving and protecting, but he was a member of a different faith, and he wasn't really excited that his son wanted to be baptized because he was worried about him, which is understandable. If a father's trying to do his best, and I had to hold nothing against him. But this 9-year-old son was able to bear his testimony in front of his father, and the father gave permission for him to be baptized after we taught him the lessons, and his father came to the baptism. It was just really cool to see the whole family together. So those are some uplifting, there was a lot of uplifting things that happened on my mission. I can't just name one or two things. So, it was a great experience. I wouldn't really change it for the world. Community of Christ, of course, is a break off of the church. It happened all because it's all about prophetic succession. So, of course, we believe that Brigham Young was supposed to be the next prophet after Joseph Smith. That's what we hold true. Well, the Community of Christ believes that Joseph Smith III, Joseph Smith's son, was supposed to lead the church. So that's where that schism happened, and this was, like 150 years ago. I don't know the exact date. But that's going to be the big difference. And so with the Community of Christ, the main difference between our beliefs and their beliefs is that the Book of Mormon is inspired writings, but it's not scripture. The Word of Wisdom is a suggestion, it's not a law. The priesthood's set up differently, and obviously women can hold the priesthood. In fact, I think they have 1 or 2 female apostles. I'm not quite sure. They don't believe in temple work. Like I said, their Community of Christ temple is open to everybody. They don't believe in doing any of the saving ordinances in the temple. No baptisms for the dead. They think that's odd. No eternal marriage or anything like that. So my suggestion would be if you do get to teach in our LDS family, and we taught in our LDS family, and I know an RLDS family that was converted, is to show them Special Witnesses of Christ, the Boyd K. Packer section, because he's in the Kirtland Temple, and that's really helped bridge that gap between the Community of Christ and our church. But there's a large group of Community of Christ out there. There's still about 250,000 members, and most of them are in independence. So when you're tracting, you'll come across them a lot. There's other breakoffs too. There's over 30 in the area. You have the Restorationists, the Remnant Church of Jesus Christ of Latter-day Saints, and they all kind of have, it's like any other church, they have parts of the truth, but they don't have the whole truth. This unnamed woman, 30 years prior, had married a man who wasn't a member of the church, and she wrote and had her names removed from the records of their church. Well, her mom was still a devout member, and the bishop that month had decided that all the deacons were going to go and collect fast offerings from everybody, and they were just going to canvass the ward and see who was still there and who was still not. Well, this woman's mother was still on the ward directory, so the deacon and his dad go over, knock on the door, and he finds this woman who had her records removed from the church. And she said, well, my mom's passed away, but I'm really interested in coming back to church. And without knowing what she was doing, she handed the deacon like a couple $20 bills and said, I think this is enough, here's my tithing. And so anyway, later in the week we came over and we talked to her and found out that, she had her name removed, and worked with her. And she said that her biggest thing was smoking, that she didn't want to go back to church because she was embarrassed because she was smoking. So she was taking medication for it, and it wasn't really working, and she still had these urges. Well, we fasted with her, and this is a 60-year-old woman, 60, 70-year-old woman, so fasting was really hard on her. But we fasted with her the day before church, and we gave her a powerful blessing that night. And we saw her at church the next day, and she said that she just has absolutely no more cravings for smoking, and ever since then she hasn't picked up a cigarette since, and has been rebaptized into the church. Growing up, a mission was always something that was kind of in the back of my mind, but I never really took it seriously. I was one of those going through the motions kind of members, church on Sunday, do the right thing, but my heart really wasn't in it. And I remember distinctly I went to a mission prep class once again, not because I wanted to, but because, it was the right thing to do. But I remember going to this mission prep class and just really feeling the Spirit and recognizing that it was something that I was really supposed to do. So I went home and I prayed that night, and I just had this overwhelming feeling that a mission was right for me. And I didn't look back after that. And I got prepared and I got ready, and I went to the MTC. And to be honest, I think the Spirit that you feel at the MTC is really second to what you feel at the church. Or I'm not at the temple. Well, and also at church, but just a really strong, powerful Spirit. You're there with other elders and sisters who are also preparing to go on missions. And one of the very true statements that was told to me in the MTC by the MTC president was, it doesn't matter why you go or what made you go, but what's important is that you're there. And so I promise you that by taking that leap of faith and by choosing to serve a mission, that your lives are going to be blessed immensely. I wasn't a really good student before my mission. I got B's and C's in high school. I didn't really have a future. I didn't really have a whole lot of plans going on for me. And so outside of the spiritual blessings that come with going on a mission, there's also a lot of temporal and physical blessings. I learned how to study on my mission, and that helped me get into BYU and helped me set myself on for a good career. I learned charity and love, and those are some of the spiritual blessings that come with serving a mission. There are so many great people out there that are just fun to be around. I mean, you can go out there and proselyte and teach and feel the Spirit, and that's fantastic. And when you do that with other people, you come to love them. And I made a lot of friends on my mission. It was a blast, not only with my companions, but with the people that I taught and the people that I served with. The Auburn Hills Ward in Wichita, that's my ward. I love that place. I served there for almost 8 months. Serving a mission was the best thing I could have done with my life. If I hadn't served a mission, I wouldn't have met my wife. She was there at the airport waiting for me when I got off the plane, and I didn't know who she was beforehand, so the Lord blessed me with an eternal companion as well. I do not regret for 1 second serving a mission. I learned a lot about myself which was really important. I converted myself to the gospel. If nothing else, I know that I'm converted. And hopefully I helped a lot of people along the way, people whose lives I saw change completely. And they were so much happier. And it's amazing how little we actually do as missionaries. You know, we go over once or twice a week and we teach, and the Spirit's really what comes into their lives and changes them for the better. And I promise you that as you work to be an emissary of the Lord and bring that Spirit, not only is your life going to change, but the lives of those around you are going to change, and we're all going to be better because of it. And the blessings that you receive from serving a mission are going to go well beyond the 2 years that you serve. I'm still blessed today from all of what I do, and I know that this church is true. And you know, when you go out and you preach the gospel, you're preaching the true gospel of Jesus Christ, and we're all going to be able to come together one day and rejoice in the friendships that we made and the experiences that we had. So I say these things in the name of Jesus Christ. Amen.